Alabama gets the number one safety in the country. What was it about Alabama?
LSU Tigers, number one. Go Tigers.
In the next 4 years, I'm going to Denver University.
Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, 256-576-4977. Now, here's D Squared.
Welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D Squared, Drew DeArmond, and again, we appreciate you for joining us. Hope you're staying dry on this Tuesday. The weather has been a little bit of an issue here, no question about it, and so it's going to be probably until Thursday. Going to be a lot of rain in our community. Luckily, it's basketball season, so we are winding down the regular season. This is the last week of regular season competition in the AHSAA for high school basketball. As you know, you can play up to 30 games, and going to be an interesting slate because there's a big game tonight over at Huntsville High. No ramifications on the 7A Area 7 race, as Huntsville has won that with a 5-0 start, but they play a very talented Sparkman Senators team under 11th year head coach Jamie Coggins. Coach Coggins' squad, as you have heard us say, is the two-time defending Huntsville City Classic champions. He has made a couple of trips to the Final Four during his, and a trip to the state championship game during his run with the Sparkman Senators. And they have another very talented group. They certainly are going to be hungry tonight to play well against Huntsville. Huntsville thumped them a couple of weeks ago, 57-39 over at the Capitol in early January. So again, it's going to be another big crowd, I'm sure, over at Huntsville. Huntsville trying to do something that's hard to do, go undefeated in 7A Area 7 and finish that off, and certainly not going to be easy against a Sparkman Senator squad that's coming off of a 86-31 win on this past Friday against the Albertville Aggies. They certainly they needed that game because they had struggled against Huntsville. They struggled against a really talented Ramsey squad. Denton Johnson has now won 20 games for the fifth straight season for the Ramsey Rams. Ramsey is the number one team in 5A basketball and finished off an undefeated regular season run in the area last night. So congratulations to Denton and those guys as Ramsey is looking forward to another deep postseason run. But they came over in that 256-205 challenge and won impressively against Sparkman. So Sparkman needed to get back on the winning track. They certainly did that. And Jamie Coggins' group is a veteran group. It's senior laden. And usually he has his team playing very well at this time of year. So going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be another high-level, important game next week over at Huntsville High for the area tournament, as there will be a game that winner advance and the loser goes home. And yet again, it's going to be the loser of that Grissom-Sparkman game. The loser of that game is not going to advance to the regionals over at Jacksonville State, the Sweet 16. So last year Sparkman got that win. Certainly Grissom's been hungry, and besides two losses to Huntsville after Christmas, Grissom has been really good, including beating Sparkman 44-39 over at Grissom just several days ago. So we'll continue to monitor that, no doubt about it. And the huge news coming out of Tuscaloosa yesterday, some clarity. Not a decision made under any stretch of the imagination yet, but some clarity on the Alabama offensive coordinator search, and what that clarity being Ryan Grubb, the first-year offensive coordinator, just finished his first season, out there on the West Coast with Kalen DeBoer in Seattle, Washington. Their offense was one of the best in college football, led the nation in passing offenses. Michael Penix was a dark horse Heisman candidate and threw the ball for over 4,400 yards. Penix, of course, had transferred from Indiana in the Big Ten out there to Washington. They had 2,000-yard receivers. Their rushing attack was only, I think, ranked 69th in the country, but they didn't have the material to run the football like they did or like they would at the University of Alabama, certainly. But they did a great job putting together a very potent offense out there in Seattle, and they went 11-2, I believe. They won the Texas Bowl over, the Texas Longhorns did Washington, so that was a nice bowl win for Washington over the Texas Longhorns, and so kudos to them and what they were able to do and getting and having a very good first season. But it was a very potent offense put together by Ryan Grubb. He's been a guy that has already received 2 raises. He received a raise after their Apple Cup win, with Grubb. And I wanted to give a shout out to Travis Ryer of BamaOnline.com, who came on our sister station on Talking Ball on ESPN 97.7 The Zone, and he was able to give us some insight into that offensive coordinator search. And he hinted about Ryan Grubb, and they had some info about that yesterday. And also BOL reported that Washington, was not happy that Grubb was making that trip to Tuscaloosa. He actually flew across the country, was there on Sunday into Monday interviewing with Nick Saban. Of course, what they reported yesterday, and this is BOL, was that one of their sources said the expectation is Grubb will take the job if he gets the offer. But again, I'm not sure that he has been offered yet. Chris Lowe of ESPN, who is as dialed in as anyone, talked about Ryan Grubb interviewing, and also that Nick Saban was going to interview several people. So it's going to be interesting. Signing day is coming up tomorrow, and that's the second signing date. But as if you followed recruiting and listened to this show, 90+% of these guys have already made their decision. Alabama's got 28 kids signed. Auburn's got, their class signed. Pretty much everybody does. Now, Georgia's got some irons in the fire. They're certainly battling is Kirby Smart for Deuce Robinson, who's a 5-star prospect, arguably the best tight end in the country out of Arizona. They'd like to sign him. So would Southern California. He's also a baseball prospect. So we will see where that goes. Nicholas Harbor, could he end up going to Oregon? I know Dan Lanning has got some irons in the fire. We know Cormani McClain has already pledged to coach Prime and Colorado. We strongly believe he's going to sign with the Buffaloes tomorrow. So that was pretty much the last player Alabama was, attached to, who they had spent some time recruiting. But I think the NIL amount was just too much. I certainly wouldn't pay Cormani McClain the alleged $800,000 number before ever playing a game. That's absolutely asinine. I'm sorry, a kid coming out of high school does not have a brand. Now, he may play for a high school program that has a brand that's significant, but until you go to college and prove yourself and make a play, you don't deserve $800,000 out of the gate. That's just absolutely ridiculous. And of course, even on your team, you can choose not to give a guy a large NIL deal. A starter who I believe to be Javian Cohen, who, by the way, was only a part-time starter last year. He really lost his job to Tyler Booker. He supposedly wanted a big-time NIL deal to stay at Alabama, and Nick Saban did not give him that, allowed him to go into the transfer portal, and now he's going to go play for the Miami Ruiz Hurricanes and, of course, Mario Cristobal. Good luck to Javian Cohen. He played some good football for Alabama, but I certainly don't think he is worth $500,000. If he was worth that, he'd be going to the NFL and playing in the National Football League because he's eligible for the draft. The reason he's not going for the draft is because he would probably be a third-day pick at best. He was a good player at Alabama. He was not a great player, a player that's better than him, and Tyler Booker beat him out at left guard, and so he wasn't even guaranteed to start. Would he have likely started? Good chance if he had continued to improve and work hard that he could have easily stayed at left guard or moved to right guard, probably stayed at the left side, Booker on the right. But again, I don't think Nick Saban in Alabama thought he was worth it, and they've got younger guys like T.J. Ferguson, Jaden Roberts, who can become just as good, if not better, than Javian Cohen, who I think also wanted his girlfriend's law school paid for, which is another ridiculous demand. So good luck to him at Miami. We'll see. But good player, not great player. But, again, he is now leaving the University of Alabama. So we understand that, and we knew he had already left and accepted a scholarship from Miami. hopefully he can get that degree and improve and have a chance to play in the NFL. But good luck, because Miami was a train wreck this past year. But Ryan Grubb is a very interesting case. Offensively, the way they space the field, the way they take vertical shots down the field, a lot of what they do reminds me of what Josh Heupel does at Tennessee. So that would be a very interesting fit for the University of Alabama if Ryan Grubb is that guy. Still no movement on the defensive coordinator's job. I know there's been some reports about Todd Grantham potentially being a candidate at the defensive coordinator spot. Do I believe that will ultimately happen? No, I don't think so. And on our sister station on Talking Ball earlier this morning, we talked to Dan Matthews, the executive producer of the Chuck Oliver Show, and as he told us, he does not believe either those reports about, certainly, Todd Grantham being the DC. Certainly, I mean, he's somewhat of interest. He has experience. He and Nick Saban go back many, many years to Cleveland and the Browns. Certainly, he's a member right now of Alabama's staff as an analyst. But I still think Alabama's exploring every opportunity and option with Jeremy Pruitt. There could be some other names of interest. But honestly, I've heard this, and we'll talk to this with Jimmy Stein of BamaInsider.com in just a few minutes, in about 10 minutes' time. But again, I think Nick Saban has been more concerned about the offensive side of the ball, getting that hire right. Certainly, it's crucial for the quarterback development because you've lost a great player like Bryce Young, who was a 2-year starter for you, a stalwart, won a Heisman Trophy, the first Alabama QB to ever win one, the fourth Heisman Trophy winner in the remarkable run of 16 years under Nick Saban. When you think about running backs, Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, certainly one, and then Devontae Smith, the wide receiver, in 2020, and now Bryce Young in 2021. So you've had 4 Heisman Trophy winners at Alabama, and so Bryce has gone on. He's going to, be, I think, the first or second pick in the NFL draft for the University of Alabama. To me, that's what he should be going. I think he's the best quarterback in all of college football. But Nick Saban needs somebody to develop his quarterbacks going forward. Bill O'Brien wanted to go back to the NFL. He has gone where everyone is expected. Now, it took a few more days. It took an interview, and, they decided to go with him. Bill Belichick bringing Bill O'Brien back in to be his OC and QB coach. He'll be crucial in the development of Mac Jones. I thought Bill O'Brien did a better job than he was given credit for. Alabama was in the top 11 in the country in scoring and in yards. I know he got criticized some for the red zone offense and certainly not being able to run it at times. But I thought for the personnel he was given, and especially the offensive line issues, he did a nice job, no question about it. So he'll be tasked with improving Mac Jones. I think he can do that. And so he made the move we all expected. Now it'll be interesting to see what Nick Saban wants to do with this offensive coordinator, because he needs somebody that can develop a quarterback. You've got a guy like Jalen Milroe, who's a freakazoid athlete, but is one of the fastest players on the team. Outstanding athletic ability. We'll see what he can do. It's certainly no doubt about that. And if he can be developed, I think, he's got a long way to go as a passer. Such a great runner, so explosive, but just really has a ways to go, no doubt about it. And then, of course, you've got Ty Simpson. I still think Ty is going to be the guy. A lot of tools there, natural thrower, great arm, underrated athlete, can move, coach's son, at Westview High School in Martin, Tennessee. Not a powerhouse program, led them to a state championship. I think he can be a special guy. I know he had opportunities to transfer via NIL and maybe be a starter elsewhere. I think he stayed for a reason, so that's going to be something to watch. Now, if you want to join the conversation, 256-576-4977, and talk some recruiting, talk about Alabama's quarterback situation, you can certainly join the show on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. But we're going to talk to Jimmy Stein of Bama Insider, a team and recruiting analyst, does a great job studying Alabama football. We've had him on the show a couple of times. Always enjoy our conversations with Jimmy, a longtime follower of the Crimson Tide. Interested to hear his take on the developments at the offensive coordinator spot and defensive coordinator. We're certainly going to enjoy his thoughts, no question about that. And again, it's an interesting time because usually Nick Saban, they have a recruiting wrap-up in Tuscaloosa on with the February Wednesday signing date, and usually the coaching staff is introduced and it's in place. But for the first time in his 16 years, I really don't think that's going to be the case tomorrow, unless some things break today, and you never know. But he's taking his time with this. Spring practice is in March, but he's got plenty of time to get the offensive and defensive coordinators in place. I think he's been methodical with this because it's very important to get it right. You lose a Pete Golding who had a year left on his contract, who'd been there 5 years, decided he wanted to go to Ole Miss, certainly was making great money at Alabama, $1.7 million. I've heard some people ask about Ryan Grubb. He had received 2 raises at Washington and was making $2 million with this last one, and from what I understand from checking with sources, sounds like a $2 million buyout for him if you want to bring Ryan Grubb in. But money's never been an issue with Nick Saban or his coaching staff at Alabama. Never has been. It never will be while he's there. It's why they got the Sports Science Center built so quickly and fast-tracked, why they just did that huge upgrade to Bryant-Denny Stadium while he's here. I mean, they've always given him the tools that he needed. Certainly, with Pete Golding having a year left on his contract, that may have involved the buyout with Ole Miss, so they could take some of that money and it would go toward Ryan Grubb's buyout should they choose to go with him. I've been asked today, is Ryan Grubb still in Tuscaloosa? We'll see. I mean, that has not been substantiated or reported. We do know he was there yesterday. We do know he was there Sunday, and so that will play itself out and see if Ryan Grubb is going to be the guy and if he's going to, be the next OC in Tuscaloosa. Certainly, he wouldn't have flown out to Tuscaloosa on Sunday from Washington, from Seattle, if he wasn't interested. He had some interest from Dirt Neck, a.k.a. Jimbo Fisher, who wanted to talk to him potentially about hiring him as OC at Texas A&M. That did not happen. That's why Washington stepped up and sweetened the pot even more. But Alabama's Alabama. You've seen the OCs that have become head coaches that have worked for Coach Saban, Jim McElwain among them. He worked there for 4 years, the longest tenured in the Saban era from 2008 to 2011. Certainly, when you look at Lane Kiffin, now the head coach making $9 million a year at Ole Miss. Mike Locksley doing a nice job for Maryland. They just won 8 games, which is the most in a long time, I think since the days of Ralph Friedgen. So nice job there by Mike Locksley. No question about it. Steve Sarkisian, now the head coach at Texas, bringing in Arch Manning and a great recruiting class. So if you're the offensive coordinator for the University of Alabama, it usually leads to lucrative head coaching opportunities, and certainly Ryan Grubb at least wanted to talk some serious football with Nick Saban, and we'll see what happens going forward, no doubt about that. But certainly the defensive side of the ball, I think when you talk about that, Nick Saban, as I said, more concerned with the offense because I think he knows what he wants to do on defense. I think there's some coaches that are very much in play that are old heads. I would continue to monitor the Jeremy Pruitt situation. I would continue to monitor Bo Davis, and we'll see. I think DeMeco Ryans has a chance after his remarkable run for 2 years as the defensive coordinator with the 49ers to be the head coach of the Houston Texans. If that happens, does he hire his old teammate and who played alongside him at inside linebacker Freddie Roach? I think that's could be very possible. That move could be out there. So there's a lot of moving pieces with this coaching staff for the University of Alabama, and it may take a little longer than usual to get the pieces in place before spring practice, but I firmly believe that Nick Saban will do that. And I'll tell you what, before we go on break, don't forget to download our app, our Blitz Sports Radio app at the Google Store or the Apple Store. If you want to hear this show Monday through Friday from 9 to 10 a.m., the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. We love your support. We've been going strong since late July. And don't forget, later this afternoon, the Bandyman, Bailey Lowry, Captain Cool, John Abraham, quality sports talk on the afternoon Blitz from 2 to 4. So please download our app. You can listen anywhere, anytime to the Blitz Sports Radio. Also, continue to download our app on 97.7 The Zone, our sister station. You will hear Alabama basketball tonight starting at 6:30 for pregame. 7:30 the tip-off as Alabama hosts Vanderbilt inside Coleman Coliseum as they look to bounce back from that performance that just wasn't up to snuff against Oklahoma. Wasn't really what they're about. That's not Alabama basketball this year. Hopefully they're going to get it going back in the right direction with Jerry Stackhouse's Vanderbilt squad coming off of that narrow loss at Texas A&M and certainly playing pretty good basketball. So Alabama is going to take the floor again tonight. You'll hear Alabama on Saturday as they travel to LSU to continue Southeastern Conference play. And also, don't forget UAH. They're on a home swing this week. On Thursday, they will be playing against Delta State, and then Saturday against Mississippi College. So please catch that action, and you will have Scott Tyson and our own Steve Moulton on the call. But we're going to go on a break here on the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared. When we come back, Jimmy Stein, Alabama football analyst and recruiting expert, going to rejoin the show and talk some Alabama football with us for a few minutes. Stay with us on this Tuesday edition of the Blitz Sports Radio.
The Blitz has been called.
The Lodge at Guntersville State Park. From the gorgeous long views of the lake from the Bluff Side rooms to dinner at the Pinecrest room, Guntersville State Park needs to be on your bucket list this year. What an ideal place for a family staycation or a romantic getaway. Guntersville State Park has it all. This is a great time to book your visit, and depending on the time of year, you might want to bring the clubs and take in a round at Eagle's Nest. Make plans today to visit the Lodge at Guntersville State Park. If it didn't exist, you'd have to invent it. Guntersville State Park.
The new Cheeseburger Bobby's on Carl T. Jones Drive in South Huntsville is focused on serving great food prepared with the absolute freshest ingredients, featuring classic hamburgers and cheeseburgers with lots of specialty options, chicken and hot dogs, even turkey burgers and veggie burgers, along with fresh cut fries, onion rings, or coleslaw. Always fresh, never frozen, except for the frozen custard. See all the delicious options at Cheeseburger Bobby's for yourself. Check out the menu and more at cheeseburgerbobbies.com. The new Cheeseburger Bobby's on Carl T. Jones Drive in South Huntsville is focused on serving great food prepared with the absolute freshest ingredients, featuring classic hamburgers and cheeseburgers with lots of specialty options, chicken and hot dogs, even turkey burgers and veggie burgers, along with fresh cut fries, onion rings, or coleslaw. Always fresh, never frozen, except for the frozen custard. This week, our zone deal is $50 worth of Cheeseburger Bobby's for half price, just $25. Get yours Friday at 97.7 ESPN.com.
This is Wes Neighbors with Philip with Eagle Insulation, and we have an announcement to make.
Yes, Wes, we are now Eagle Masonry and Insulation. Still a place to call for your installation needs, but now we offer masonry services.
What kind of masonry projects can you handle?
Wes, no job is too big, no job is too small. We can do renovations, new construction, outdoor fireplaces, fire pits, brick landscape borders.
Well, when you came out to my house, you did both the insulation and masonry at the same time. You guys did rock for me, you did brick for me, and you insulated my house. That's usually done at the same time that you're building a house.
Absolutely. It really capitalizes on two services you need at the same time, and you can get one company to handle both of those.
Philip with Eagle Insulation will come out, do your installation. He'll do your masonry. They do a great job. They guarantee your work. Check out more online at insulatedwitheagle.com and schedule your free examination today. 256-755-1556.
Thanks, Wes.
With us today, Dr. Tracy Lowry of Best Vein Care of Huntsville.
When we evaluate a patient and they indeed have significant venous disease, most third-party payers, private insurance, Medicare, require us to treat every patient conservatively at least 90 days. Conservative treatment includes increasing ambulation, elevation of the legs, and the wearing of compression stockings. It's very common for folks to come see us in March or April wanting to have their veins fixed before they go into swimsuits starting in June. When we see someone in March or April, they're going to require at least 90 days of conservative treatment before we can even go to the insurance carrier to get permission to treat their veins. So if you think you have a venous problem, now is the time to come in and get a free screening so we can determine whether or not you need something evaluated. If you have a vein problem or you think you may have a vein problem, now's the time to contact us.